Could Jordan Love be the NFL's first $60 million man? It's not as crazy as it seems. You are Locked On Packers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Peter Bukowski, and I cover the Packers for The Leap, a newsletter I would love for you to subscribe to. Follow me on Twitter, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on Twitter, Locked On Packers. Like us on Facebook. Subscribe to the podcast to iTunes, Spotify. Wherever you find podcasts, you'll find Locked On Packers, the #1 Packers podcast on the internet. And the show for fans who know what happened, they want to know why and how, thanks to everyone who makes Locked On Packers their first listen every day. Today's episode brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. Make every moment more. As playoffs wind down the sports world, we still want to be talking to you. But this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all their customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. And as always, we hope you like starting your day with us as much as we like starting our day with you. The numbers are going to get crazy. They've already gotten crazy to the point that the NFL is exploring, the owners are, a quarterback salary cap because these numbers have just gotten out of control. And they are only going to get more out of control to our brains, not in reality. And so I know that there's going to be visceral reactions. There were visceral reactions. If I could speak English, we'll see if I can make it through. Mike Florio, who I understand, persona non grata among Packers fans, but he was asked about $60 million quarterbacks. Who could be the first $60 million quarterback? And your initial reaction is, well, there's no reason for Trevor Lawrence or Tua or Jordan Love to be $60 million quarterbacks. Except, here's the thing. If you just take the percentage of the cap, okay, that Joe Burrow got, Trevor Lawrence did not match it because the cap goes up and up and up. So Jared Goff gets 21% of the cap, right? In 2027, 21% of the cap is $69 million. 2027 is not that far from now. $69 million will be not even the top of the quarterback market. It will be like top five-ish, but not the top. That means someone in 2027 is going to be making $70 million. In fact, if Joe Burrow got his cap number now, his percentage of the cap based on this cap, it's already over 60. So in order to truly match Joe Burrow in terms of percentage of the cap, and this is from a team building standpoint, how you have to outlay these things. It's not necessarily how agents and players think about these things. They say, Joe Burrow is getting $55 million. I want $55 million. And in a way, teams are happy to go, cool, because you're not really matching the Joe Burrow contract. It doesn't make it harder to do anything else if you're paying the same relational amount. So this brings us to Jordan Love, of course. A 5-year, this is what Florio proposed, a 5-year, $300 million deal. Sounds like a lot. It is $60 million AAV in new money. But you keep this year on top of it. So it's really a 6-year, $312 million deal. So it's a shade over $50 million AAV. This is why, like, the DeAndre Hopkins contract blew out the market, because everyone's going, I want that average annual value. But that was an extension on top of a deal where they were getting, I think, 2 cheap years on that deal before the extension even kicked in. And so he never counted anything close to that number on the cap because it was spread across all these years. And it even changes with all the option bonuses. And I don't even want to go down that rabbit hole. but you keep the low salary number now, which is something they would do anyway in an extension. Less than 15 million on the cap this year already. Now that number is going to bump up because of the signing bonus money, but you don't have to change anything with the base salary. You give them a big number, but this is the beauty of it. It becomes then a 6-year deal. And think about it this way. In 2027, he's still going to have multiple seasons left on his contract when, even if you're paying him at the top of the market now, he will be like the 12th highest paid player. And he'll still have multiple years left on that deal. It's the position, frankly, Josh Allen finds himself in right now. Patrick Mahomes finds himself in right now. Not that Jordan Love is those guys. But when you pay the right quarterback, and this all presupposes that Jordan Love is that right quarterback, these deals inevitably and nearly immediately look like a bargain. Just think about the example I just used, Joe Burrow. $55 million annually. No one in the NFL would take Trevor Lawrence over Joe Burrow right now. Now, okay, you've got age to consider, you've got injuries to consider, you've got a lot of factors in play. You've got the marketability of Joe Burrow in your city, the fan base equity, all of that stuff is more important than I think a lot of people realize, especially with certain owners. But that's a top of market quarterback. What happens is, if you pay Jordan Love $60 million, everyone's going to go, that's a crazy number. But because of the way it could be structured with the 5 new years, you're really spreading that money out. And if he's only 50-ish, 51-ish in terms of that value, then he's not even getting paid the Jared Goff deal, really. And so by any measure, that's a win. So it's not like, oh, he's going to be a bargain next year or the year after that. No, he would immediately become, relative to his peers, like Jordan Love is just a better quarterback than Jared Goff. Like if we did a ranking today, Love is ahead of Goff in a vacuum. And I think even in circumstance, I would rather have Jordan Love than Jared Goff. And yet, you'd be getting a deal. And I know that seems crazy to go, oh, it's a deal. It's $60 million a year. This is also the potential compromise if you're the Packers. Hey, we'll give you, and this is something we talked about a couple weeks ago with the idea of Love flexing his negotiation muscles and saying, look, we can do this in a year after Dak Prescott signs his deal and you got to franchise tag me and we got to figure this out. We can. But then the number is going to be 65, 70. And so the Packers, they don't want to give the future guarantees. They just want to guarantee signing bonus and maybe a couple option bonuses in there that you can use as triggers to spread out the money. Much like the Eagles did, much like the Jaguars did. This is what you do now. But the Packers can say, look, we'll bump this number way up. We'll make it, we'll do your agent a favor and make it look like you broke the record. When in practicality terms, they didn't. But it's still a great deal for Jordan Love, and it's still a very good deal for the Green Bay Packers. It's why I have been saying for weeks, they are going to reset the market. Because Jordan Love deserves to get paid at least the Trevor Lawrence number. But it is not difficult to argue that he deserves, remember, you're getting paid for future performance, not past performance, future performance. The Joe Burrow contract, 24.5% of the cap or something like that. He's not even really getting that. He's getting under that if he gets $60 million in new money annually. It's not crazy at all. Now, I think I've been saying for a while, I think the number is going to be 58. You're getting, it's comfortably clearing the bar of Trevor Lawrence and that number. You're not getting to the full Joe Burrow in terms of part of the salary cap, but you still get to set the new record. Everyone wins, and you don't explode the market. Other teams don't want the Packers to sign a deal where you're exploding the market for no reason. Now, the Packers don't really care. They don't have an owner, so they don't have to worry about it. Mark Murphy's going to retire in a couple of years. He doesn't have to worry about it. That's the next guy's problem. But I think this number comes in at 58, but it could come in at 60, and that would not be surprising. All right, I want to talk about expectations. And I want to go back to this year, or this time last year. We're going to do that next on Locked On Packers. Today's episode brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. I love sports. I love them so much, I never want them to stop. And luckily, they don't really year round. There's always sports. But as the playoffs wind down, we get fewer games. And the sports just aren't sportsing like I want them to. But FanDuel lets me keep the sports going whenever I want. All I have to do is open the app and dream up bets anytime I'm in the mood. And this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right, something for everyone, every day, all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com/lockedon and start making the most out of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. All right, I want to talk about expectations. Speaking of expectations, are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? Have to turn down the volume with all the shouting? Make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories in sports without all the screaming. Locked On Sports today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. There's been some rewriting of history going on. I have noticed a trend among some folks in the media who have dismissed or misremembered the way that we were talking about this team a year ago. The lowest odds to win the division. The plus odds to make the playoffs. 7.5 wins over under. And the progress that the Packers made. And when I hear criticisms of the Packers, oh, why is everyone talking about this team like they're going to go to the Super Bowl? And it's usually Bears fans. They only won 9 games last year. And this goes back to a problem that is just a life thing. It's not just a sports thing. This confirmation bias where, well, we expected them to be bad. They only were a little less bad than we thought. That's not really true, but let's go with it. And therefore, they cannot be really good this year. That's going to be the thought process, whether intentional or not. That's back in there. But that's not what happened. And if we want to be fair about this, and we want to be right, most importantly, the most important thing to me in these analyses is to be right. Always. Because if I'm wrong too often, you guys are going to go, why am I listening to this idiot? And I get that. And I take that seriously, by the way. But so we have to acknowledge that the expectations for last year's team were significantly lower. And they exceeded those expectations. But it's not just that they exceeded those expectations. The how is paramount. How? Why? And not just because it's the log line of the show. How did they do it? Why did they do it? Infrastructure with Matt LaFleur, quarterback play, and front office maneuvering. A tremendous draft class. Really 2 straight tremendous draft classes. The evolution and the growth and the development and the fostering of yet another quarterback who came in the second half of last season was quantitatively the best quarterback in the league in the second half of the year. Those are the reasons. Because if you're going to be a little bit skeptical of this team that went 9-7 last year and is getting Super Bowl hype this year, it would be because you're confirming your priors. Well, I didn't think they'd be very good last year, so they can't be that much better. But if you flip it now, I liked what I saw at the end of the year, so I'm just going to forget what I thought or what I said or what a lot of people were saying or what the consensus view of that team was. It's easy to just hand wave that. And that can be used positively or negatively. But we can't ignore that that was the truth. Like, there was a show I was listening to the other day, and they were talking about offenses last year and relative to expectations this year. And it sort of glossed over the Packers offense, which most people expected to be bad and wasn't. Well, why wasn't it? Because Jordan Love turned out he's way better than a lot of people thought. And this is actually, I'm a little surprised at how willing the football media, the national media, has been to embrace Jordan Love, because he was someone in the pre-draft process who did not really have a fan base. Like most years, quarterbacks, especially when there's a group of them at the top, Tua, Burrow, Herbert, and Love. But Love was never really in that category. And so a lot of the draftniks and the film grinders, they were out on Justin Herbert. But that means they were wrong about Justin Herbert. And a lot of the underlying numbers with Jordan Love said this is not going to work out. Wasn't productive enough. Too many turnovers. But the context, there were a lot of reasons to be optimistic about Jordan Love as well. We've enumerated them over the years, so I don't want to belabor that point. And I've been surprised, frankly, at how celebratory, how much the national media has embraced Jordan Love, because it means that so many of those same people were flat wrong about Jordan Love. And Ross Uglem came on the show and was like, I am so happy to be wrong about Jordan Love. And I think when it happens that way, that is when people, I thought this guy was going to stink, and he turns out to be really good. It's easier to just sort of like forget about that because you're happy that the guy's good. It's nice. It's good for the league to have more good players. It's usually when it's the other way and you thought a guy was going to be awesome and he stinks. That's when you're very slow to criticize, very slow to mention it, very slow to admit a mistake. But we have to do that. We have to be willing to do that in order to find a way to project this moving forward. We have to be clear-eyed about it. And that means for me and for Packers fans, trying to do it without the bias of desire. But we also have to all agree on what actually happened. We have to agree on what actually happened. And we can't act like there was an expectation for that team. There wasn't. There were some people saying it, me, but very few people in the national media saying Jordan Love would be good, the Packers are going to make the playoffs. I had my own hard-earned American dollars on the line. I told you to bet all the Jordan Love overs. You know what? I bet the Jordan Love overs. I told you to bet the Packers to win the NFC North. Now, they didn't do that, but they did make the playoffs. I told you to bet that too. So that evolution is essential to their arc now. So when you hear the criticisms of, oh, they were just 9-7, like why are people gassing them up? Well, because of the growth that they showed. And if you're the kind of fan, and I know that there are plenty of them out there who constantly want to guard their heart, and they are cynical. Okay, I understand that. But let's remember what happened. This team was expected to be a sub 500 team with a defensive coach who was fired at the end of the year, who everyone knew was terrible, except Matt LaFleur apparently. They won 9 games, kicked the teeth into the Dallas Cowboys, and were one stop away from the Super Bowl, from the NFC Championship game, from playing a team in the NFC Championship game they'd already beat. And the last time they played them, handled them. We have to be honest about that. We can't misremember what happened, because it's essential to understanding what's going to happen next. Okay, I want to talk about a person, a coach, in fact, who has not received the amount of hype, credit, pub, flowers, whatever you want to say, and that includes on our show. It's important that we talk about him. We're going to do it next. Locked On has launched the first ever national sports 24/7 streaming channel on YouTube. Now it's also available on Amazon Fire TV and the free Fire TV channels app. Locked On Sports Today is here for you 24/7, covering the top sports stories of the day with the local experts of Locked On, plus our national shows covering every league. Find Locked On Sports Today now available on the free Fire TV channels app. Jason Hirschhorn wrote about Tom Clements last week. And he wrote about what happens if and when Tom Clements retires. And I don't really want to go through some of the candidates. Jason is great at that. But whatever people accuse me, if they say, hey, you find every reason to criticize Aaron Rodgers. Okay. Maybe. Let me offer some praise. Tom Clements has clearly had a big positive impact on Jordan Love. And Jordan Love has said that. Matt LaFleur has said that. Matt LaFleur has raved about Tom Clements and the work that he's done. And you hear Jordan talk about it in by the way, happy engagement to Jordan Love. He has talked about it in post-game press conferences, in practice, things that they've been working on, things that they're seeing, things that they're trying to ingrain in Love. And Aaron Rodgers has credited Tom Clements with a lot of his own development. What can happen is with great quarterbacks, they can really like someone and say, yeah, this person helped make me who I am. And then that person gets another chance, another opportunity to do that with someone, and it doesn't go great. And then another opportunity and it doesn't go great. And another opportunity doesn't go great. And it's just sort of like, okay, how do we separate the great quarterback from the coach that he really likes? Because you want to take the quarterback at his word that this guy materially influenced your life. But sometimes that's just not, like Nathaniel Hackett, beloved coach in Green Bay. Aaron Rodgers loved Nathaniel Hackett, brought him with him to New York. All the evidence post Aaron Rodgers is that Nathaniel Hackett is not the guy that Aaron Rodgers has sold him to be. That's true of Alex Van Pelt, who Rodgers acted so miffed when his contract was not renewed. It's not like he's been given a million offensive coordinator opportunities since he left Green Bay. The rest of the league does not view him as in as high a regard. I don't know why I can't talk today. As Aaron Rodgers did. But Tom Clements was given another opportunity and knocked it out of the park. The growth from Jordan Love, just in 1 year, the growth from Jordan Love has to be at least partially laid at the feet of Tom Clements, his most direct coach, and someone who you have this other all-time great quarterback saying he was huge for my development. And now you see him with another pupil who he's developed. This is proof of concept. Like one guy, he would be really good. Like Matt Nagy, I think we're seeing the evidence. Because Patrick Mahomes is awesome doesn't mean that Matt Nagy is a great coach or is a good head coaching candidate. He might be a good positional coach, might be a good OC, might be a good quarterbacks coach. But it's not proof he's a great coach. Sometimes greatness is just greatness. We're seeing this from Tom Clements. And I think because he's older, because we don't get to talk about, like, sometimes I think we miss opportunities to praise coaches because we are so quick to always frame those conversations through the lens of what it's going to get them. It becomes so transactional, so ladder climby. Oh, this quarterback's coach is doing a hell of a job with this guy. He's going to be an OC and a head coach soon. That's always, like, it was Adam Stenavich. Hey, what do you think of Adam Stenavich? And Rodgers was like, I think he's going to be a head coach. Well, but tell me how he's helping. Tell me what he's doing. I need to hear that part of it. And this usually happens with older coaches. They get taken for granted. Steve Spagnuolo is a great example. Steve Spagnuolo is, I mean, you can make the case that right now today he's the best defensive coach in the league. But his name doesn't come up because he's not getting a bunch of head coaching opportunities. He's had head coaching opportunities. They mostly went terribly. And so he just gets to settle in and do the thing that he's awesome at. But he doesn't get talked about because there's no cachet to talk about this great defensive coordinator. Because there's no, and then. Well, who cares? There's no and then. And Tom Clements is the same way. There's no and then. He's not going to get, look, maybe he will, and maybe he'll take it, but it seems unlikely. It seems like much more likely that he would retire than he would take and get ahead. Like, if you're going to hire the Matt LaFleur quarterbacks coach, you're going to do the Sean McVay thing, and you're going to take the 22-year-old on his staff. It's going to be, as Jason points out on the piece, someone like Connor Lewis. It's going to be someone like Sean Mannion in 2 years. You know, Jordan Love wins an MVP this year or next year. It's going to be Jason Vrabel. Those are the guys that are going to get those opportunities. They're young. Even just as OCs. Teams think this way because head coaches are thinking about the long-term growth. Hey, let me get this 30-year-old because he can grow. He's not set in his ways. I can mold him. We can get him to where he wants to be. And if he has to go get a head coaching job, great. But he's going to grow with us. That's the model. And the model for Sean McVay, for Kyle Shanahan, it works and is working. Tom Clements, he's not going to be part of that cycle. So we're not getting excited to talk about him. And that's not fair to him. He deserves a significant amount of credit. Now, more than Matt LaFleur? I don't think so. More than Jordan Love? No, I don't think so. But a sum that is greater than zero, which to me is what he's gotten so far. And certainly, I don't know if we've even said his name in the last 6 months on this show. That's my fault. I mean, I literally have a show. So I am writing that wrong now. Jason gave me the perfect opportunity. And I'm going to check my own biases when it comes to this. I feel like I try and look at these coaches as honestly as I can, but it's hard not to look at the shiny object, the Adam Stenavich. Oh, everyone's talking about him. What a great guy. He's getting promoted. Now he's the OC. Why would we not talk a bunch about Adam Stenavich? It's the change. We talked about Tom Clements when he first showed up. His relationship to Aaron Rodgers. He didn't get Aaron Rodgers back to playing like Aaron Rodgers. But he did help Jordan Love start playing like he got Aaron Rodgers to play once upon a time. And that's pretty cool. And he deserves his flowers for that. So, there you go. We'll be back with more Locked On Packers tomorrow. Follow me on Twitter, Peter_Bukowski. Follow the podcast on Twitter, Locked On Packers. Like us on all the social media platforms, Instagram, TikTok. I'm sure there's a new one that I don't even know about yet. We're probably on there. Honestly. Go subscribe on YouTube so you can stay Locked On Packers.